Good evening. It's August 12th, 2014. I'd like to call the Raymond Select Board meeting to order. I'm going to start tonight by our sponsor. If you watch on PBS, if you watch TV on PBS, there's usually a sponsor at the beginning of the show, and tonight's sponsor is Raymond, Maine. I want to show everybody that our sponsor is Raymond, Maine, and anybody who would like to get a t-shirt like this can get it down at the Raymond Village Library. All right, so these are new. They've only been out a couple of weeks. They're great, and you can show your pride. They have a variety of sizes and a few colors. They even have them down to onesies for the real little folks. So anyway, thank you. I'd like to get unanimous consent so non-residents can speak, please. Thank you. Now looking at the minutes of previous meetings, first one dated May 13th. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Corrections, deletions, suggestions?
I don't have any.
I have one on page 5. I think it would be under, let's see, public comment. Peter Levitt on the first line. I think he meant to clarify the quote from Rolf Olson, not Tolf Olson with a T. Anybody have anything else?
Don't.
All those in favor?
I'll abstain, I wasn't here.
Opposed? So 4-0, 1 abstention for Joe not being here during that meeting. Next set of minutes for approval, June 17th, 2014. Do I have a motion?
Motion to accept.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any suggestions, corrections, deletions? I have one on page 6, which is the last page under confirming dates for the next regular meeting. That should be August 12th, and the other 3 mentions of June should be removed. Any other corrections, suggestions? All those in favor?
I abstained, I wasn't there.
So 4-0, 1 abstention. Mr. Gifford, for who was not here. Okay, first order of business is a public hearing. This is an annual requirement from the Maine Department of Human Services to bring the Raymond General Assistance Ordinance into compliance with Maine Law Title 22, MRSA subsection 43054, related to levels of financial assistance and eligibility. The town annually adopts the Maine Municipal Association's Model Ordinance General Assistance Appendices, which cover the period from July 1st, 2014 through July 1st, 2015. So I would now like to open the public hearing. Is there anybody that would like to speak on general assistance? Don, do you have anything to add?
Just that the Maine Municipal Association gathers this data in conjunction with DHHS using local survey data. So the levels, maximums, minimums are specific to this area of Cumberland County, and so that's why this has to be done every year to make adjustments.
Those appendices were provided to us in our packet and provided to the public through the info packet for this evening. Anybody have questions, comments?
And of course I probably should add that what they're surveying are the cost of housing, basic necessities and so forth for those unfamiliar with general assistance. General assistance is town-provided aid for the most neediest of our town residents, and so it has an income qualification component, and then there are maximums that are prescribed under law for various forms of assistance that we can grant.
Nobody from the public want to comment? Seeing none, I'd like to close the public hearing. I have a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt the local general assistance ordinance and the appendices as provided.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? 5-0 in favor. Under new business this evening, we have the appointment confirmation for Town Clerk Sue Look. This agenda item will confirm the appointment of our new town clerk, who's actually with us this evening, who was appointed by the town manager on July 1st of 2014, this being the first regularly scheduled meeting of the select board after that. It comes to us. Don, would you like to continue?
Yes, I'll continue. I'm very pleased to introduce our new town clerk, Sue Look. She came to us from the state of Maine, where she worked for the Division of Elections for 5 years. Prior to that, she was the town clerk in West Bath from 2004 to 2008. She's also held private sector positions in data management. So the level of qualification and experience that Sue brought to the position was extraordinary and complete for what we were seeking. And we had a number of great candidates, but she was really, I think, just what we were looking for in a new town clerk, and probably could be town clerk in most any town in Maine. So we're very pleased that she chose to apply here, and we're excited for her to start with our town, and she's doing a great job so far, and she's on her first night tonight doing the minutes, and so I would like to introduce her and tell you that we're very pleased to have her in this position.
Welcome, Sue.
Sue, would you stand up on the mic just to introduce yourself to the town, please? Just like that. Perfect.
There you go.
Anybody have any questions for
What a
Sue?
great job.
While she's standing there, anybody have questions? I know she can't type the question and answer them at the same time, but
No question.
Yeah, I'm good, but I'm not that good.
all right.
I'll make a
So-
motion to confirm the appointment of Sue Look as the town. Go.
Yeah. We'll have public in just a sec. Is there a second?
Second.
Now, any public comment? Louise? Louise, you have to state your name and where you live.
No.
It's kind of official.
Louise Lester, 10 Hartley Lane. When we got Sue's application, I was thrilled. I'd had a little history with Sue in Department of Elections and was very impressed with her in that position. And I couldn't believe our good luck when she applied. And I am so thrilled that she's here, taking my place.
And so Sue will be doing the Selectmen minutes and starting this evening. I'd like to thank Danielle for her service over the past several years in providing minutes for this board. She won't be continuing with that. She'll be moving in a lot of new and hopefully exciting directions. You know Danielle, she's always moving somewhere. And of course we have Louise here this evening, so I think it's unprecedented. 3 recording secretaries for this board in one evening. So a little history there. Spans a number of decades, I guess, even.
Does that mean we have to be on our best behavior?
I don't know,
All right.
but just thought I would point that out, because Louise also did minutes for the Selectmen for a long, long time.
Anybody else have a comment? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? 5-0. Welcome, Sue.
Thank you.
We can now say it officially, I guess. Next item on the agenda is an update on the regional transportation bus, which comes through Raymond. Dan Goodman is here, and I think, Dan, you have a presentation via computer, so step right up, introduce yourself.
I've got a few others as well. But
Oh, absolutely. Actually, you can move that Lindt chocolate box. And you guys can just sit right there, and you can use those microphones in front of you. And
Great.
And to start, if you would all introduce yourself and tell us what community you live in would be great, please.
Sure. I have copies of PowerPoint thing.
We all have them electronically,
We all have them on here.
Oh,
so
you
if
do?
anybody in the audience would like them, that would be great.
Well, my name is Rick Harbison. I'm a planner at the Greater Portland Council of Governments.
Hello, my name is Jana Thompson. I work for the Opportunity Alliance in their public health program, and the Opportunity Alliance is located in South Portland.
Hi, my name is Dan Goodman. I work for a Regional Transportation Program, our office in Portland, Maine, and I also live in Portland. Let me just figure out how to put this back on. I just want to thank the select board for having us come present. Here we are. We want to give the town an update on the bus and give some ridership figures and what we have in store in the future. Our bus, the Lakes Region bus, has been running since the end of November, so we thought it was an appropriate time to come here. So I want to thank the Opportunity Alliance, Jana and Rick from Greater Portland Council of Governments for their help as well, and Maine Department of Transportation. So just a quick background, the Lakes Region bus is operated by a Regional Transportation Program. RTP, as we're also known, we're a not-for-profit located in Portland, and we primarily, most of the work we do is we provide door-to-door service throughout Cumberland County to the residents of Cumberland County for people who are low income, people who have Medicaid or Medicare, people with disabilities, and we transport them to their medical appointments or to the store for grocery shopping. And we do this with a fleet of minibuses and vans, and also with a dedicated volunteer drivers. And all right. So currently, we started the service November 25th after much fanfare. We have a bus in all the towns that we serve: Naples, Casco, Raymond, Windham, Westbrook, and Portland. Our stop in Raymond is at Sunset Variety. They have been a fantastic partner with us. They allow all the riders to use their parking lot for as long as they need to ride the bus. The bus stops there. We have 8 one-way trips, so it stops there 8 times a day, leaving bright and early. We operate Monday through Friday. In the lower left, there's a picture of the bus. It's a hybrid diesel. It's a pretty great bus. We call it an 18+2, which means it's 18 seats and 2 stations for wheelchairs. But when the bus is filled, we can fit 4 more people, so it can fit 22 people. And as the weather's been nice, you can see there's a bike rack up front, and that folds down. And we've been filling it up with bikes. It also has free wireless internet on the bus. And recently, as you see on the side, it's kind of small, but some local businesses have been advertising on the side of the bus. The Lakes Region Weekly and a local storage facility. Also, yes, the fee for a one-way trip is $3. We also, you can call them frequent rider cards, a 10 ride for a discount and a monthly pass. Senior citizens and students also get a discount, and which has been great. Some of the benefits to the Lakes Region that we feel, it's affordable. $3 we think is a very affordable price to get from Raymond to Portland, Raymond to Windham. We've been seeing a lot more of Raymond to Windham trips. Lately, go to the shopping centers in Windham, Hannaford to go grocery shopping, Portland to go to work as well. Especially for young and elderly, maintain independence, people with disabilities, people who don't have a car. It gives them access to all sorts of areas they could not go to before. It provides individuals to go to the different towns within the Lakes Region, not just to Portland. It's a bus that they can take to Windham or they can take to Naples. Also, the Lakes Region has fantastic recreational opportunities: the lakes, the trails, biking, walking, hiking, and we are kayaking. We're seeing more and more people use it from Portland who are coming north to go to the lake in Raymond or go to Naples to the Causeway. So it's been fantastic. And so here are our ridership figures for the first 8 months, ending the end of July. On the left is beginning in December, our one-way trips. So the boardings, you would say. So you can see for the month of December, we offered free service to anyone. We decided to do the month free service, waive the $3 fee to kind of give, let people give it a try. And so then it took a slight dip. And as you can see, beginning in March, it has been a steady increase, and July has just been tremendous. and August has just probably, it will exceed July based on the week and a half that we've seen. And then on the right, we have the figures for departures and boarding. So where people get on the vehicle and where people get off the vehicle. As you can see, the majority of people board in Portland and depart in Portland, and Naples second, followed by Wyndham, Raymond, Casco, and then Westbrook. So the other graph we have here is, I don't know if everyone can see that, where are they riding is the first graph on the left. And we did a survey, onboard survey, where the bus driver handed out surveys to the riders. And I think a little over 40% of our riders were going to work, followed by visit family and friends, followed by medical appointments, followed by shopping, school, recreational activities, and then other. And then we had another question, was how often do they ride? And a little over 30% were 1 to 2 days a week, followed by, I was quite surprised, 3 to 5 days a week. A little over 25% of our riders are very frequent riders. And then below that was first-time riders. So we're still seeing a lot of people who either don't know about the bus or do know about the bus and just never given it a try. So around a little below 20% were first-time riders. And then this little cute picture below is, I took that on Friday. It was a family and took their 10 young girls for a birthday party down in Portland, and they took the Lakes Region bus.
Nice.
Happened to catch that. So followed this by Rick.
Great. So my name is Rick Harbison. I'm a planner at the Greater Portland Council of Governments. GPCOG has been involved with the Lakes Region bus since it was initially proposed more than a decade ago, I think. So all the credit in the world to RTP for making it happen, and it's really exciting. Since the bus began operating in December, we've been providing a little bit of planning assistance to RTP to really think about some strategies for improving the service and really making sure it can be as viable as possible. So we've been able to do this with funding from Maine DOT. We get a certain amount of funding every year for transportation planning. And we've been putting our findings and recommendations together into the report that you see here, Improving Access to the Lakes Region Bus. The report is currently in draft form, but it's really close to being done. So we'll definitely share that with all the communities when it is finished. Part of the report is geared towards RTP and what RTP can do to improve the service. And then part of the report is also geared towards communities and what communities can do to really support the service. So I do want to share some of the preliminary recommendations from the report, though. And this just is kind of our vision for the Lakes Region bus, where we'd like to take it. It's a little bit of a wish list, but these are the steps we feel are important to help the bus reach its full potential. So in no particular order, what we'd like to do is increase the number of stops, extend the route to Bridgeton, increase the frequency of service, offer weekend service, connect with major employers along the route, improve bicycle and pedestrian access to the stops, and increase awareness for the bus. So we've already started to chip away at some of these a little bit. Go ahead. So this is kind of hard to see on the screen here, but in terms of increasing the number of stops, Dan and I have been speaking with Maine DOT, and we've proposed a number of additional stops along the route. So right now, I believe there's 6 stops, 1 in each community, and those are represented by the black triangles. And those are, the way those work, they're scheduled stops. So the bus will pull in, it'll stop. Even if there's no passengers, it'll wait for a set amount of time to stay on schedule, and then it'll continue. So what we've proposed is a handful of additional stops that we're calling request-only stops, where the bus will, it'll be a sign on the side of the road, and if someone is hailing the bus, it'll pull over and pick them up. If there's nobody at the stop, the bus will just keep going. And so we think that's a nice compromise between providing more access to the bus, but at the same time not delaying the service too much for the past years. And so the two stops in Raymond that we've proposed are Raymond Shopping Center and the Tasseltop Park stop, which already has a bench and under a tree and looks really nice. So we've already put these into Maine DOT and we're kind of just waiting to hear back. But hopefully we can add those stops and sort of do a trial run and see how they go. But we're kind of excited to see that happen. The other thing is to extend the route to Bridgeton. That's been a goal. We've spoken to all the right people in Bridgeton. The Bridgeton Community Center has agreed to be the final stop for the route, which is great. They've got a nice indoor waiting area, and it's just sort of a natural choice for it. And we're cautiously optimistic that we'll be able to do that next year, I guess. All right. Another is to increase the frequency of the service and offer weekend service. So right now, if you live in Raymond, going southbound, you can get the bus at 6:30 a.m., 9 o'clock, 3:30, 6:12. And then going northbound, you could get it at 8:26, 11:36, 5:34, and 8:02 p.m. So what we'd like to do is just increase the number of trips that happen. So there's a pretty big gap in the midday that we'd like to plug up. And then also just offering more trips, like hopefully get the wait down to a half hour or an hour between waiting for the bus. And same is true for weekend service. Right now there is no weekend service. I think that would be a real improvement, especially for increasing ridership, like Dan was saying, with the recreation and shopping trips. I think you could add a lot of potential riders by offering weekend service. So another is connecting with major employers along the route. So I guess this map is also a little tricky to see, but the bigger circles are large major employers, and then the shading is actually population density. But there are a lot of major employers along the route, especially in Portland and Westbrook. And then they're sort of sprinkled throughout the route as you head further north along Route 302. The major employer in Raymond is Sabre Yachts, which I'm sure you all are familiar with. So what we'd like to do is, for these employers, we're going to reach out to them and hopefully figure out ways that they can use the bus as a commuting option for their employees. And our two ideas around that were, one is that, and this has worked in other areas, is where the employer purchases a bulk amount of passes that they then distribute to their employees, kind of as a perk for working there. And then the other is that, for certain employers, like Sabre Yachts is pretty close to the route, we might even be able to set up one of those request-only stops at that location and really make it convenient for their employees to get there by bus for $3. Another is improving bicycle and pedestrian accessibility to the stops. So this is one way that the communities can really help out with the bus. It's getting ahead of ourselves a little bit in that the bus hasn't even run for a year, but the stops that are, the existing stops now do seem to be fairly permanent. And so, and there's that, and then also I think this is just a good exercise for communities to do anyways, is think about accessibility in the community. So in the center of that circle is the Sunset Variety bus stop. The circle represents a half-mile radius around the bus stop. The different color shades are land uses. So the red is residential, the green is open space, the purple is commercial. There's blue in there that's civic, and then the rest is the lake. And that's just approximate. That's just from me looking at the satellite imagery, so it's not totally accurate, I don't think. But you can see there are some fair amount of pockets of residential neighborhoods near the stop that could definitely benefit from improved access. We estimated there to be about 400 people living in just that half-mile radius, and that's definitely a ballpark estimate, but that's what we came up with. And then this also shows existing sidewalks and recommendations for future sidewalks. So the white dotted line, if you can see it, along Route 302, that's the existing sidewalk that you have. And then we recommended a future sidewalk going up Main Street, and then another one going to the Avesta housing complex on the south, and then just filling in some of those curb cuts along Route 302 where there's a lot of entrances and exits that maybe could use some crosswalks and things like that. And then the yellow sections there are where the road is yellow. That represents a half-mile walking distance from the stop. So that's just sort of a rough cut, and we're open to suggestions if you guys want to see this look a different way or have other thoughts. But we have been surprised at from us riding the bus and from what the drivers have told us, the amount of people that do walk or bike from or to the bus is considerable. It's more than you'd expect for a rural bus route. And then lastly on the list for us is just to increase awareness of the bus. So RTP is doing a great job of getting outreach out there. We also rely somewhat on municipalities for putting the word out on the websites. And you guys have already done this, which is great, and it's all up-to-date information and really accessible. So thank you, certainly appreciate that. And then, I think if anyone asks about the bus, I think it's also important to mention that it is open to the public. I think some people associate RTP with not necessarily being open to the public. This bus is a public bus. You just need $3 and then you can get on and ride. So I think that's an important message to convey. And then also Opportunity Alliance and Jana will be helping to distribute promotional materials and maps and free ride passes and things like that over the next year. So you may see her out and about. So thank you. And with that, I'll segue to Jana, who will talk a little bit about Opportunity Alliance.
Thank you. So I just wanted to take a couple minutes today and kind of explain the role that public health plays in transportation such as this. So we are a program of the Opportunity Alliance, as I mentioned before, and the Opportunity Alliance serves Cumberland County. We have various programs that offer services and resources to people that are in need, including we have the 211 line, crisis line within the Opportunity Alliance, many adult and children case management services, Head Start, things of that nature, and as well as the public health program. So what my program does is we really work at the larger community level, kind of at that environmental and policy level to ensure that health and resources are available to all community members. And so some of you may have worked with one of my coworkers who's been working in this region for a number of years, Zoe Miller. She does a lot of work in this area, and we service many of the Lakes Region towns all the way up to Bridgeton. So something that keeps coming up within our program is an issue or a barrier to health for a lot of people is transportation. And a lot of the things that we focus on as a program are food security, educating folks on nutrition, physical activity, talking to youth about alcohol, drug, and tobacco prevention, bikeable, walkable communities, things of that nature. And so in our conversations with communities and community members, transportation is always kind of a barrier for some folks into getting all of the resources that they might need to be their healthiest that they can be, especially in Maine all around, but the Lakes region, I think pretty much everyone can agree to, the barrier if you don't have a reliable vehicle to getting to some of the services you need. So as it says on the slide, as a program, we've been running into this pretty frequently, that this is something that people are facing as a barrier. And so we wanted to just give a little bit of Raymond data for you folks and talk about the need of transportation. So the public health program worked originally with RTP to survey the community in regards to a bus servicing their area. And as you can see there, just a couple data points, 75% of the responses from Raymond wanted commuter service towards Portland. And I think Dan mentioned a lot of that was a work commute schedule as well. 84% of folks from Raymond wanted to stop at the Raymond Shopping Center. And then 75% named saving money as the top reason they would use the bus. So just a little bit of information in terms of Raymond as a town. And then, how health really intersects with transit. This is something that when I first started working in public health, I thought, oh, transportation, I don't really see that as an immediate piece of my work. But as I mentioned before, it really kept coming up again and again in terms of barriers for folks to really be the healthiest that they could be. And this could be, getting to medical, dental appointments, accessing fresh food. I work with a lot of youth in the area, and if they are unable to drive or don't have means to get somewhere, it really can affect, what type of job they might have or the resources that are available to them as a young person. And then job opportunities, of course, for the entire population. So we're really here to support this bus. We were really excited when it first started to run because we are able to now offer something to our community members that might say to us that transportation is kind of one of those major barriers for them to stay healthy. And this slide kind of shows a couple of those, things that are affected by health, and Rick definitely touched on the walkable and bikeable and people moving to the stops by means of walking or using their bike. And so my program and myself specifically, I'll be working to really promote the bus within the community I work, and a lot of my coworkers work with a number of different organizations and community members within the Lakes region. And so anytime we have a conversation, it's been really great to just bring up the bus and let them know that it's available, offer free passes, as RTP has been generous to offer those to folks. And I've had some great conversations with people so far and that weren't aware of the bus or weren't exactly sure how it worked. And once I kind of talked to them a little bit about it, they were really, really excited. And we have some pretty high hopes within the public health program in terms of this bus being a great success. So we're really here to support it and hope that it sustains in any way that we can. So thank you.
Last slide. Thank you very much. Just thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to present to you what's been happening with the bus, and happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Dan, would you be able to provide this in PDF form?
Yes.
And this is far more complete than the brochure that we had in our e-packet, so I did misspeak earlier. And then we can add that to our e-packet so folks can have access to this as well.
Good.
That would be great, and I'm sure once you provide it, that it'll be sent out to us individually as well. So that would be great. Questions for Dan? Joe?
And on the fiscal side of this thing, is it a break-even proposition yet, or is it a long way from there? And is it going to rely on subsidies from the town to keep it going?
The first point was, is it a break-even? I am not sure that any public transit I don't want to speak for all transit, just in my limited knowledge, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I know that it's currently funded with a grant that we received from the federal government for to provide rural transportation.
For how long?
It's not a set date. It's a pot of money that we can, and RTP gets money from the federal government to provide rural transportation, so we're able to use that money on top of an old rural grant that we had to provide the transportation.
So any idea when that money runs out? Because at some point you'll be coming to the town asking for money to subsidize this, and just when is that going to be? Is it next budget cycle? Is it 2 years, 3 years?
Unfortunately, I don't know the exact answer to that, when we will run out of the money. I mean, increasing the ridership has helped quite a bit, subsidize that. But, we certainly would appreciate municipal support, that would help sustain it, help increase service, weekend service. But unfortunately, I can't speak to when we would potentially come to the board.
Lonnie?
Another financial question. Do you know the percentage of the fees compared to the amount of grant money that you use? Is it 25% of the fees that you incur pay for your budget, or is it Do you have any idea?
Unfortunately, I don't have the answer to that as well. I can certainly get the board that answer to figure out, you know, with the percent, you know, at least what,
Right.
you know, how much we're getting in fares.
I'd say we're also looking into community development block grants. So Bridgeton has one, and then we spoke with Aaron Shapiro about the potential for doing a sort of a larger regional community development block grant. So, you know, it's a possibility for additional funds.
John?
Just a couple of comments. The first, you mentioned that it would be good to pursue sidewalks on Main Street. We're doing that. We have got a DOT grant to pursue that.
Great.
There are too many curb cuts. We know that. We actually had the corridor engineered by Goral Palmer Consulting Engineers years ago, Terry Dewan, and there was a negotiation that went on and with the property owners, business owners, and it's very difficult to reduce the number of curb cuts. Believe it or not, though, that's a reduction. What you see there now is a great reduction from what originally existed and a great improvement. But not to say that there won't be additional changes, but that's where that's at. But the sidewalks, the idea of walkable communities, healthy communities. We've been a participant of the Healthy Maine Walks program. We, you know, when we first built the sidewalk, people said, "Who will ever use that sidewalk? No one will ever use that sidewalk." Some people said that. But of course, if you drive down through Raymond, you know, anytime, you'll see people using the sidewalk, you know, more and more. So we're all about trying to improve the walkability of the community and alternative means of transportation. So I just thought it was interesting that your 2 points are things that we've been there
Yeah, I commend
and
you
are
on
working hard on already.
Yeah, I remember seeing that grant for the sidewalk, but I wasn't sure if you'd gotten it or not, so that's exciting.
Another question? Great, thank you very much, Dan. If you'd forward that PDF form,
Sure.
that'd be great. And thanks for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we need to stay in the loop, have them keep us in the loop on that, because.
Would you like to make public comment? Sure.
Yes.
Go right ahead.
Absolutely.
My name is Bill Blood. I'm from 7 Mill Street, and I currently use the transportation system. It's something that a lot of people that I've spoken to, they said is something that's been needed for years. And I just wanted to tell you that it's just a wonderful program. It's I use it currently. I use it 3 days a week, sometimes 4 days a week. Just cost savings alone on my part. I just did a quick figure here. If I was just going by just gas and by what it would cost to park in Portland, my cost savings per month is $120 a month. But if you figure based on what the AAA figures are at 61 cents a mile, that figures out to about between approximately $604. That's if you use the bus 3 days a week. That's $604 in wear and tear, gas, maintenance, and insurance. And not only, I'm mentioning this because I just hope the public will realize that how important it is, you know, to their budgets, as well as the fact that it will decrease their insurance as well. I've already talked to my insurance company, and by taking the bus, it's literally going to decrease my insurance by about 40%. So it's definitely a cost savings. It's a wonderful program. It's something that should be embraced and supported by the community, by the town, and by businesses, local businesses. So just wanted to add that to it.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Thank you. Thanks again, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a fee schedule amendment. It appears one of the things that our new town clerk, Sue, noticed was that we were aggressive in a couple of areas at collecting fees. So we're usually on the low end of fees, but I guess Sue found a couple that we might have been a little high. So Sue, would you like to tell us a little bit about what you found? And You can stay right there, I believe. Dominic, she can stay there, right? Yep.
What I found is, as I was getting familiar with the data in the town office, was that the fees related to voter data, which by statute need to be what the state set, that we had up and down, mostly up from what the state has set. There's a schedule for the electronic records based on the number of records. For anything printed, it's $1 for the first page, a quarter for every subsequent if it's just simply paper, and 75 cents for every subsequent if it's labels. And those, unlike some other parts in the statute where the state sets either the maximum or the minimum, in this case the state is setting the fee because they want a candidate to be able to go to any town office and say that they got 1,500 records and it costs this much here, this much there, just to keep everything equal across the state. So that's why I'm proposing that we change the fees to fall in line with Title 21A, Section 196A.
Joe?
So, do party committees in each town still get a free list with every election cycle?
The party committee does not unless it's pertaining to the municipal caucus.
Right.
The caucus list is free.
Right.
The party can purchase a list and then can distribute it to their members if they so choose, but they can't just simply get a free list.
Because there are a lot of towns that give free lists
Yes.
to each party in the town, whether it's Democrat or Republican, gets a free list. And you're saying we don't do that anymore?
Shouldn't have been doing that since 2004.
Well, I haven't been involved since
Yes.
2004. So
And Raymond's not alone. My background in elections, and I actually helped write this part of the law, so I'm a little bit familiar with it, is that a lot of towns have been slow to move on to embrace the statute. And the Division of Elections is constantly educating the clerks to help them to understand. And I'm not in any way condemning anything that's been done in the past. That's not it. There's a lot of misunderstanding out there, and some of it comes, and I feel a lot of it comes from, this is the way we've always done it, and not really thinking that the statute is supposed to be setting the fee as opposed to setting a minimum or a maximum.
So one of the things I noticed when I looked at what the schedule should be, and I try to figure out, all right, we have to buy a box of labels, and then I look at 172 pages, we got to buy a few boxes of labels. They've got to be run through a printer, there's staff time, we can't do it for that price. So this is just something we have to do. I'm understanding that, but I'm guessing that the reason our fees were where they were was to try to recoup some of the time and costs involved, because I look at that and it's tight. The electronic stuff's easy.
Well, and one thing I will say that is I used to provide the voter list from the state level, and I was successful in talking anyone out of getting labels that asked for them, because labels are a one-time use.
Right.
You peel it off, you throw it in an envelope, you send it out, it's done, it's gone. And then to get another label, you have to buy another label. If you instead buy an electronic list, you can generate as many labels as you want. So I understand your concern, and I know that the state used the fees that are the cost of labels that they have, and then put up a certain percentage, and that's what they proposed to the legislature, and the legislature went with that. So there was cost involved and taken into account somewhat.
I'm sure there was. I look at it.
But at the same time, it's easy to generally convince someone that that's not the best way of making use of their campaign funds.
I don't disagree with that. Other questions for Sue on this? Do I have a motion?
make a motion to accept clerk's recommendation on the fee schedule.
Second?
Any further discussion? Any comments from the public? Louise? You have to go up. You're used to being behind a microphone. You don't usually have to.
Louise Lester, 10 Hartley Lane, former town clerk. In my history, I have never sold labels, taxpayer labels, yes, but not election labels. So we never made any money on that stuff anyway.
That's good. That means we didn't lose any either. Right. All right. Good. Anybody else? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? 5-0. Next item for consideration is a consideration of the quitclaim deed submitted by Deputy Tax Collector Sue Carr. We have this in our packet, and
Make a motion to accept the recommendation of the quitclaim deed for William P. Miller at map 12, lot 59.
Second?
it says here that all back taxes, interest, and lien costs have now been paid in full for this parcel through April of 2014. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor? Opposed? 5-0. Next item of business is a presentation by Board Member Teresa Sadak on the possible withdrawal from the RSU. Teresa, you can either go up to the podium or you can stay where you are.
I'll stay here.
Okay.
Sign.
No. I like to treat. As you know from meetings, I've been following the RSU and their middle school advisory committee, and this is just a little bit of a timeline background that they notices went out looking for an advisory committee for different people to be on it. Many meetings were held, minutes were held, and it came down to a process of 11 options, and what they were looking to do is build a new consolidated middle school, whether in Wyndham, whether in Raymond, or somewhere in between there. And so what happens is after different meetings, I called the Department of Education and just kind of talked to them about what are some options that we have. I drug my feet up to this point just because I tried to exhaust every opportunity. We've invited them to the select board, asked questions to the board chair. Katrina Sangster, who was the board chair at the time, came to the revitalization committee, and a lot of questions were asked of her there regarding possible what could happen with the new school and Raymond kids and Jordan Small School and stuff like that. And the committee looked at 11 different options, then narrowed it down to 10 to 7 to 3. And out of the 3 options, every one of them include building a new middle school. And pretty much the new middle school is down in Wyndham. My concern is, as a citizen and as a selectman, we have 2 schools. You got to take Wyndham out, you got to take Raymond out, and you got to look at what you have. And if that means that you move kids geographically, then you do it. We have 2 buildings that are great, but Wyndham is not looking at that as an option. The school board's not looking at that as an option. They're looking at, right now, the way that I'm taking it is that they're going to be building a new school. One of the other options that the state gave me was, okay, maybe we can look at new valuation rates, because we are paying 45% over EPS. And we will be getting, if this goes through as far as the vote goes and they build a new middle school, then this will all be over EPS. There is no state funding at all. We are 42 out of 71 of schools. We will be paying 45% of that school. And we may not be using it. Our kids, may be going here, but if you stop and think and you play this out, why would they keep Jordan Small open? Then they've got a new middle school to send our kids to. So some big points to me that people should be very concerned about is we ran some rough numbers And on these rough numbers, on a 40 million, because they're saying the school could cost anywhere between 32 to 42 million dollars without interest, for a 15-year bond, on a $250,000 house, people's taxes will be $397. If you're looking at a 30-year bond, I mean, these are rough numbers, and it's coming from the Maine Bond Bank, and I had Nancy Yates run these numbers for me, that if you do a 30-year, which would lower it a little bit, taxes on a $250,000 home would be around $284.
Additional.
Yes. So what happens also is a lot of families in this town, one of the concerns they have just in the Raymond area is how long their kids are on buses. If they close during small middle school, your child will be leaving that house before 6 a.m. and they will be going down. It doesn't matter where you're at in Raymond, they will be going to Wyndham. A comment was made at a revitalization committee meeting, why don't we bus more kids up here and start filling the schools up? And the comment was we'd have to go into South Wyndham to get enough kids to fill the school up here. And the response was, you have no problem taking all of our kids here out of Raymond to ship them down there, so why not go into Wyndham, especially if we have the buildings. So that was my second big point, was people will be having their kids on buses for a long period of time. The third thing is there will be no say. There is no say now, as you know, as far as schools go, and there'll be even more lack of say. When I talked to the Department of Education, she was against it until I told her why I wanted to do this, and she literally said, "What are they thinking? You know, wait a second." And so she's been walking me through the process. From January till now, I have dragged my feet, just hoping that we would go down a different path. I have the signatures on the petition. They've all been verified. I needed 227, and I have 352. And I'm actually still getting emails of people that still want to sign the petition. And I told people I need you more out for votes at town meetings now is if this chooses to go through. When Frank McDermott sat with me for like almost 4 hours the afternoon of election day when I was doing this, and a lot of people didn't even know that they were going to build a school, that they're even thinking about it. They were up there for all various reasons is what it was. They just said, let me sign, and they didn't care what the cost was. I have talked to a lot of people in different schools, and actually before I came here, I was talking to the Freeport people. And one of the things there's no answers. There really isn't. It's literally a step-by-step process. This process literally scares me to death because I don't know what the answers are. But I'm willing to go that route just because I don't think the taxpayers of this town will be able to afford this. I really don't. I don't want to pay for it. So I asked the Department of Education, how are you coming up with the number for the lawyer's fees that you have to put into a specific petition? And Paula Graville is the person I've been dealing with. She says it's a crap shot. I said, what? And she goes, yeah. And it's pretty much, how much do you want the lawyer to do a lot of the work, or do you want the townspeople to do a lot of the work? And I got to say, I'm getting a lot of people that are asking how they can help to do this, even in other towns. It's a huge variety. Like Belfast did 25,000. Dixfield, they were told to put 50,000, but they only spent $7,000 to $8,000. Saco did 30,000. I tried to get a lot more information tonight because the conversation I had with Dawn earlier today was that we have to have this, if we want this to go to a November ballot for the people to vote, we have to have this ready to go by September 9th. What a lot of people, I'm finding out, don't understand is this is a 22-step process. This isn't something the board's making a decision on, is what it is. What I'm asking the board is, the biggest gripe from the people in this town is they don't have a say. They don't have a say on the board. They don't have a say as what's being spent with their money since we've consolidated. So I am asking the board to take this to a town vote and let the people decide. there's a lot more questions. I know there are, and I'm gathering them. I'm trying to get as much information as I can. So
Teresa, to be clear, as an informational presentation today, what you would be asking for at the ballot box in November would be a vote to authorize X amount of money to be spent to further investigate the possibility of leaving the RSU. There would be, this investigation would then take place with legal help using the monies that would be voted on in November. At a later date, there would be, I'm sure a lot of these steps that you've mentioned, the 22 steps, a later date there would be another vote if it got that far. So if the investigation proved to be positive, negative, whichever you want to think of it, it would then be brought to another ballot box later for a vote by the citizens. Is that correct?
I believe reading this, and I read it several times and it still doesn't stick in my head, there's like 3 votes that the
Okay.
public has to do, and it's the last vote, I believe, that we have to have 50% of the gubernatorial, the previous gubernatorial. So that's huge, because right now, if we were to vote like today, we'd have to have 1,100 votes. So they want to make it hard, but they also want to make sure that the people have a say, and it's not a board that's doing it. And what they're very specific about is the language is already there for the petition. So we don't have to make it up, it's already there. We just have to fill in an amount. And the other thing is, we can stop at any point when we can say, hey, wait a second, you know, to me, I guess I'm asking to take this step to see more information, to see what happens. What my biggest fear is that this goes to a vote between Wyndham and Raymond, and we get outvoted. And the state of, the Department of Education.
This what goes to a vote? I'm sorry.
This new school.
Oh, a new school goes to a vote.
And I mentioned this to Paula Graville at the Department of Education, and she goes, I wouldn't wait. She says, because you will be outvoted. Another thing that concerns me is in March, I have requested, as you can see on here, I requested new valuation rates, because that's one of the things Paula says, try this. Maybe this might change people's minds. And they have them, and Katrina had sent me a letter back. I think I talked to her in May. And by coincidence, poor Diana's sitting here tonight too from the school board. It's on tomorrow night's board meeting, and it's Dick Spencer is going to be explaining it. And I did not realize how much of a process it is, that it has to go to votes, a couple different votes, for them to change the valuation rates. So
You mean the calculation on the formula,
yeah,
not valuations?
the
How
calculation, the
much?
payments, yes,
The
yes.
payments, right.
Yeah, there's a couple different votes on that, and that's a process that we could be paying something cheaper possibly. And that can get voted down, that we still are paying 45%. So
Teresa, when you say we're paying 45% over EPS, we're a community of under 5,000. Wyndham is a community of close to 15,000. But we pay 45% of the cost of building a new school.
Yes.
And that's what has led,
That's the current formula.
that's the current formula.
Yes.
So, okay.
because that's all over the EPS, none of
Okay.
that would be considered in
And
there.
that's based on our property values, our town valuation overall, not the number of students we have
Yes,
participating.
and we don't have a lot of students in there.
I'm just
nope,
trying to
nope,
understand some
yep.
of the points to make sure that I'm clear with how this is being, so I understand. So, thank you. Lonnie?
You've mentioned that a few dollar figures for a handful of different towns that said set aside lawyer fees, whatnot. Do you have an approximate what you think Raymond would need?
No, I don't. That's the one. I think this is step number 2. So I think that's the part that scares me, is how do I figure it out. But talking to, I think it was Dixfield, he had said they were told by, I don't know if it was the state of Maine or it was an attorney, go in at 50,000. You may not use it. It all depends on how much the town wants to do on their own. You know, I have no problem calling. I mean, and the cool thing about talking to all these different people, which is really neat, is they're willing to help. They're willing to give you information. The Michelle Richardson, she was one that tried to pull out of Durham. She said, you know, a friend of hers said she'd give you a lot of information. There's a lady in Andover that the guy in Dixfield had given me. She says, I will help you walk through this. I'm doing my taxes right now. She says, I just can't. And so I've got to hook back up with her. But people are open to talk, which is good. So, I mean.
But there's no reason why you can't set an amount. And if you go over that amount, you go back to the town asking for more money.
I think so. I don't know. Frank mentioned that today, and I didn't know what the answer was to that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and you know, there's a couple good attorneys out there, but a lot of them are with one firm, so I think it's a conflict of interest, so you got to watch.
I mean, Drummond Woodson's the one that does most of these.
Yeah.
I mean, we're with Bernstein Shore. I'm sure somebody at Bernstein Shore has knowledge on the procedure.
Well,
or would recommend.
Right.
something else. I asked the lady from Andover. I said, "What would you say is your hardest thing to do on this whole thing?" And she said the negotiation was. It's a 4-person panel. Is what it is. It's, you know, select board member, the person who started this, and I so was hoping to pass the buck. A town person and a school board person. And Norma has been great as far as talking to me. She's got information on her computer from budgets that we're pulling up. Cynthia Kenny from the school today showed me how we find our maintenance and stuff like that. I'm trying to pull more information for Norma to pull some stuff up to see what it is. But it's, I totally went blank, sorry.
You know, I think it's a good idea to continue exploring this.
Yeah.
But I would also like to have a meeting with the school committee, you know, and say, how serious are you guys and what's your time frame on this? Because if the state says you're number 42 out of 71, what they're saying is you're not in a crisis situation yet.
Right. Well, right. Well, but that exactly, and that's why I drug my feet, hoping that it wouldn't come down to these 3 options. I mean, you know me, I'm pretty like, okay, let's do this. Okay, I want to do this like yesterday, and you know, this has been since January, and people in this town, they want to split for various reasons. They really do. And I honestly, in defense of Wyndham, I don't think half of Wyndham knows. Because I don't think people pay attention to it until somebody really brings it to light.
Well, it was in the paper today.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
What was?
You were.
You were.
Which one?
Portland. Talking about, you know, what with Raymond withdrawing from the RSU.
She didn't quote me on. I told her, I said, some person. All right, I'm gonna tell you guys here. Some person stood up at the one meeting, and you guys, if you guys were there, she said my kid wants to be an Eagle and not a Roadrunner. And I said, well, for $40 million, her kid is going to be a very expensive Eagle. She goes, can I quote you? No, don't.
You're now quoted.
I know.
Just
But
so you know.
but it's that ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? The stuff that yeah. I didn't read today's paper yet, so.
I mean, you know, my kids went to Wyndham.
So did mine.
They were on the bus at 5:50
See,
in
okay,
the morning. I mean, but that's what people did back then. That
Right.
was a while ago.
right.
And
Well, I think we ought to continue exploring this.
yeah, I think we
further,
need
yeah.
to, but I think we need to have a meeting and really flesh out what they're thinking.
Yeah.
you know.
And that's fine with me. I'm bringing this to you to say that I have the petition that, Diana.
Yes, I was like,
We'll get to the
Oh.
we'll get to the public in just a second, is when the board's done asking questions.
And Diana and I had a talk beforehand, and I'm open to so many different questions, and the more that I talk to people about different questions, the Freeport's issue was kind of backwards from what we did, because they were a big school pulling out of little schools, and the chair still doesn't get why they did it, just because they had pretty much a majority say, but you know, they said that what was it, Durham and Pownell were just very, very conservative compared to what Freeport was, you know, and but I just don't want it to get to a point. I'm so willing to gather as much information as I can, and I've been trying to get as much as I can. Just don't want it to get to the vote that it's a formal vote between Wyndham and Raymond, because Raymond will lose.
Other questions, comments from the board? I'd like to open it up for public comment. or questions, or?
Diana Freuslin, 101 Daggett Drive, and a member of the Raymond School Board, the minority. I don't know if any of you have followed the minutes from that committee, the middle school building committee. I was not on that committee, however, I read all the minutes. And the final suggestions that the committee made, and Katrina came here, correct, and presented that. I have to say, one of the options, though, was not for us to be part of the middle school. So not all the finale options were a new middle school for us. One was to renovate Jordan Small, and they would do their own thing. So I just wanted to correct that it wasn't all, we're all, you know, everybody agreed on that committee, yep, have to build a middle school.
So wait a second.
We still pay 45%.
We would renovate Jordan Small.
One of the
and then they would
options,
build their own middle school?
correct, and it would, it would stay separate as it is.
45%?
And it would stay separate as it is.
And we would not contribute to that debt service?
That is what I don't know, because we have, from what I understand, we already have a separate debt. They have the high school as we have RES. So therefore, and I don't know if it's correct, if that option was selected, of course, both towns would have to vote.
No, we're paying some of the cost of the debt service on the high school. I was on that consolidation committee.
That's what I said, I don't know. I don't know how that works, but don't we each have separate debt? From what I understood, the
Jordan
towns,
Small didn't have any. I know that.
No,
what about RES?
Not, do you know, I have the consolidation.
I think that's.
I
all
thought
paid
each
for.
town still had some of their own. I could be wrong, I have no
No.
idea.
No.
But just wanted to correct that with those final minutes that came out from the committee, that there
I-
was,
I have the three here, and I can read them.
Do you have it?
I can read them, and then you can continue.
right, because there was just an email that went out, and I think it's posted on the webpage too, where Kate Bricks does a nice job with a one-page infographic. I don't know if that's what you're referring to.
No, I have just.
You have the
I
notes?
have the, looks like it was pulled out of the notes. So option one was to renovate Jordan Small Middle School, building new 6 through 8 Wyndham Middle School on the current Wyndham campus. 1A was to renovate Jordan Small Middle School and build a new 5 to 8 Wyndham Middle School, then taking Manchester to grades 3 and 4 and Wyndham WPS?
Primary school.
Wyndham
Primary.
Primary School to pre-K to 2. So that's 1 and 1A.
Right, only because for them, since they have such space issues, some of those make sense for them to
Sure.
reconfigure their buildings. But one of them does leave us out, so.
Then option 2 was to build a new consolidated middle school on the current Wyndham campuses, grades 6 through 8. So that would be both towns, it sounds like. Option 3 would be to renovate RES, Raymond Elementary School, to be grades pre-K through 6. Wyndham's Primary School to be pre-K through 2, Manchester grades 3 and 4, new consolidated middle school on current campus with grades 5 and 6, Wyndham only,
Pod.
and then grades 7 and 8, Wyndham, would be Wyndham and Raymond together as part of the middle school, is the way it reads on this 3 items.
Right.
So that one sounds like you would only start middle school for Raymond folks 7 to 8, for 7th and 8th grade, as opposed to the other option, which was 6 to 8.
But those were just what the committee,
Mhm.
you know, and that was a committee of townspeople from each town, the principal from each town. You know, I think it was a diverse group of people. You know, that was a large group of people that came to those conclusions, whether we agree with it or not. And I spoke to a lot of those people and said, really, none of the options were very good. So, but my thoughts are it's a little premature because we are just starting to study that formula tomorrow night. So, not saying I'm for or against either way, it's just that we don't have information. If we proceeded down that road, it's based on what? Is it based on a new middle school? Because you're making it sound like that's a foregone conclusion when that's not the case at all. That committee still had more work to do. That was just the wrap-up they did for June because they were only charged to meet for the year. So the intent, from what I recall, when Katrina did the wrap-up, there were still more steps that they suggested be taken. They wanted to poll the staff. They wanted to put it out to referendum to see what the people are saying. Because we are just beginning to look at that formula tomorrow, we figured that there wouldn't be time to get that on a November ballot anyway, to do a referendum. So that, at the earliest, would be June. So if the citizens of the town say, you know, no, we're not paying for that, well, it dies right there. So it becomes a non-issue. So that's my only point, is it seems this is very premature in this state of the game.
Well, Mike, if I could.
Sure.
One of my issues that I have too is when this whole thing started with the meetings, they were all supposed to be put in the newspapers and publicized as much as possible. It's not at all, and I fault the committee for that. And I called the Wyndham Eagle, I called, the Lakes Region, I said, has there been any articles, anything done at all? And they said no, and I know Michelle Libby had called Marge. So that concerns me there, because of the lack of the information that they were getting out to the public as far as step by step. The other thing that concerns me too with not getting information out to the public is the school board sitting on these numbers for a long time as far as the ratios. Because by the time you guys look at them tomorrow, you guys have to think about them. You got them in like April, May, June, July, August. There's 5 months that possibly we could have been paying lower rates, but you guys, it's still a couple month out there process that has to go. So this is like almost 3/4 of a year going by that the board has been sitting. So my concern is, once again, it's Raymond that's in the negative, because it's numbers that would affect us, and they're just sitting on them instead of doing something and making it a priority. And the lack of information that's out there is a big concern of mine. And it's just, I know you're just new on, it's not you, you know that.
No, I know, and I think if you did probably go into the Wyndham shopping centers and poll people, they maybe have no clue.
Right.
That's even being considered, so.
Joe?
Diana, how many kids from Raymond are in RSU now? Is it like 700, 750, somewhere in that range?
Probably something like that.
So
And
we're
as you know,
probably,
it
what,
keeps
like a third of the whole
flipping.
school population is?
We're a smaller segment. I mean, the total student population is over 3,000.
Yeah, so we're like 25% of the population,
So
yet we're
we're-
paying 45% of the cost.
And we're
That's the problem right now.
And I don't know who came up with that formula.
That formula was done in the consolidation committee, and it was supposed to be reviewed after 3 years, and it wasn't. Because why would Wyndham want to review it? They're making out like bandits on this formula.
Well, it could have been read after 2 years. I read that today. So things could have changed even more. But they were supposed to review it every 3 years, and
So-
we're on 5 years now.
So that's part of the frustration I hear in Teresa's voice as well. Do you have more to add?
No, because like I said, that work begins tomorrow.
Can you just bring back a message to the school committee that the Raymond Select Board would like to have a joint meeting to discuss what's going on?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Good.
Whoever, step right up.
It's Frank.
I know it's Frank, but I saw another hand before Frank, so I was going to let them wrestle back there in the back row.
Frank McDermott, McDermott Road in Raymond. I don't think they would ever build a middle school in Wyndham and pay for it themselves as long as they're in an RSU. It just will never happen. I know a little bit about school finance, and that will never fly. I have a number of reasons for being against the RSU. The first thing is that if we end up going to Wyndham, and the possibility if they build a new middle school, we will go to Wyndham, it will leave us with a primary school. That's not going to attract an awful lot of people to move to the town of Raymond. What attracted people to come and live in the town of Raymond was that it had an excellent school system. And I don't think we have an excellent school system anymore. First thing Wyndham did when the consolidation went through was to take away our technology program. We had an outstanding technology program, Cade, in the school system. And because Wyndham didn't have a technology program, Raymond couldn't have theirs. That didn't make an awful lot of sense, and I think it went downhill from there. Raymond is the stepchild. The youth population of the town of Raymond will continue to decline till we get to the point where we will not have any kids. And when you don't have kids in the town, you're a dead town. And I see that coming for us, especially if we end up with just a primary school in this town. I think we can offer a quality education again in this town to all of the kids here. We talked about the high school population, Joe. We also got to remember we have a number of kids who do not go to Wyndham as part of that percentage. So I just think it was a bad deal all around. I really think it is a bad deal for us, and if we can pull out and go back to building a quality educational school system for the town of Raymond, we will best serve this community. And I think we can't wait to do this. I think we got to start this process. Even if you schedule a meeting with the board, the time, the clock's ticking. So we need to get this started. We can drop it any time. We can stop it any time. But now is the time to get it on the ballot in November and start the process. Because if we wait much longer than that, the vote for the middle school will be there before we know it, and we'll be voting on something that we really probably don't want to do.
Hey, Mike.
Wayne?
My name is Wayne Holmquist, and I live at 41 Meadow Road. And I can say that I would be 100% in favor of Raymond exiting this RSU, and on several bases. When they went into this, I was in the real estate business, and I've owned 3 real estate agencies, and I sold a number of properties in Raymond, and almost exclusively in the high 90%. I can't tell you which number, but well over 90%, moved to Raymond for 2 reasons. The minority of them moved here because of the waterfront, and they wanted to be on the water. The majority of the ones that came to Raymond came because of the school system. And at that time, Raymond was the 6th highest per capita income town in Cumberland County and the 10th highest in the state. And it has dropped to being the 8th highest in Cumberland County, and I don't know where it ranks in the state at the moment. And the reason is when the people who were interested in better schools for their kids and that stopped coming, that figure dropped dramatically. I think the biggest sin, you keep talking about 45% of the budget is being paid by Raymond. I think it's closer to 57. And the reason is when they went into this RSU, I don't know who was on the decision-making committee, but if I'd been on it, they would have had to have a revaluation in Wyndham, which they hadn't had for 10 to 15 years when you went into the RSU. And if you look at real estate prices, and I'm told that the reason that the 45% versus 55% exists is because of the valuation figures. There's at least a 17% differential of real estate prices, if that's where the valuation comes from the time Wyndham had their revaluation until the time Raymond did. And boy, if they make any more moves of any kind with Wyndham, anybody on that committee had better be asking for a joint revaluation of the town so we're on the same footing. And right today, you can look on the main MLS, and comparable houses in Wyndham are well below Raymond's. I can't tell you the exact figure, but that was a bad deal going in, it was a bad deal running, and it's a worse deal to continue. Thank you.
Teresa?
One of the things I wanted to add, the board has this information, but one, for the people out there in the public, we're trying to build up Raymond. And in order to build up Raymond is we've got revitalization committees going, we've got economic development going. And if we lose the schools, then we start losing families. And if we lose families, we lose businesses. And one of the things we try to get this town to do is be a business-friendly town. And businesses aren't going to want to stay here. They're really not if we don't have the schools, if we don't have the families. And the house values, I mean, I have not had this confirmed, but I think to me it's common sense. If people are moving out of here and they can't get people to buy their house, they're going to have to drop their house values in order to be able to sell them, you know, to move to another town that is coming up and booming and stuff like that. And then the other thing too is that's a huge revenue loss to Raymond. And then once again, the taxes have to be paid by somebody. One of the other things that I'm not sure if you guys are aware of, the schools currently, like if we do proceed with this, the school buildings actually belong to the RSU, that we would have to negotiate those back. And she said she's never seen it, and there's 16 schools that have already withdrawn, 16 RSUs that have already split up. 2 more are coming on the November ballot, and she said she's never seen it, but it is something to just keep in your mind.
Well, going back to 2008, if you read those documents when we consolidated, it says in there that the buildings revert back to the town.
No, they don't. I know, but that's what the state told me, because I asked twice just to be sure.
But
she
it's
says,
in those documents, so
because it belongs to the RSU property is what it is.
Right, but it says right in it, if you go back to those documents, that it would go back to the town. I think it's important to realize that the valuation is based on state valuation, not your internal valuation. It's what the state sets as a rate. So Wyndham's at 1.6 billion, Raymond's at $1 billion. That, you know, for our population to have $1 billion valuation is huge. And that's why we pay so much more. Don't forget that for the first 4 years in this consolidation, we were able to hold our taxes steady. And taxes actually dropped because they kept an eye on things at the school committee level over there. And then over the last couple of years, they just lost it.
Yes. And it's losing it even more.
And it's going to get worse.
Yes.
So.
Additional comments from the public? Please step right up.
Louise Lester, 10 Hartley Lane. Teresa's been talking about being outvoted, and something that has been said and people may not know. The RSU law was set up by the Department of Education, and the legislature passed it. And in their infinite wisdom, they had a formula as to how many people would be represented. And Raymond, out of the 9 total members of the RSU school board, Raymond has 3, Wyndham has 6. And so consequently, Raymond wanting one thing, Wyndham wanting another, chances are Raymond isn't going to get it, because you'd need a couple of the members of the Wyndham RSU to agree. I may be wrong, but I also believe that when we vote on the annual budget for the RSU, if Raymond turns it down and Wyndham passes it, it passes.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is going to happen in a vote in the RSU? It'll probably go the same way, be it a school or be it a higher budget. Thank you.
Well, just to respond to that, remember that the principle of one person, one vote is why you have a 6-to-3 ratio. We only have 4,000 people or 4,600. They have 16,000. So that's why it's set up that way.
Still doesn't make it to the people, fair to people in the Raymond.
It's in the Constitution.
I know. I was there with you with that. I understand. Yes.
I have to go.
Oh, I thought you wanted to tell us more.
I have kids to pick up. But the meeting's tomorrow, so I mean, it's a public meeting, so I'll come.
Where is it?
It's Wyndham, 6:30.
Wyndham Town Council.
Town Council
There's a
chambers?
presentation.
I'm going, definitely.
Right, so I mean, that would be a good first step
Okay.
for anybody.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, Diana.
You can tell them that we're tired of being an ATM for Wyndham.
That was good.
Grace Levitt, 2 Levitt Road. My remarks are
somewhat scattered. I've been trying to take notes and keep track as people are saying things, but I guess I'll start with a memory of sitting in the cafeteria at Jordan Small School wondering where the heck my daughter was going to go to school for 7th grade. Because at that time, we did not have anything past 6th grade. So to say that we would lose residents or lose businesses because we don't have anything past a primary school, I find that that's just not true. In fact, shortly after that, we had to look at moratorium on housing, building permits because of the attraction of Raymond. They had an excellent education. They're adults now, successful, employed, thankfully. But we sat there not wondering where they would go. We had a contract with Wyndham. They wanted more students committed to Wyndham. We had a contract with Westbrook. Westbrook's a heck of a lot farther away than Wyndham. Gray, I think at the time, was stopping taking our students, although that would have been nearby for us and not too far of a distance, but they were full. Poland, we had turned down joining in with them. I think they took some students for a while. I really can't remember too well. I just remember the worry about where's my daughter going to go to school. And it did end up working out. She ended up going to Greeley High School, where I still teach. They thankfully took her, and that worked out for our family because I provided the transportation. It was a long ride. It was a lot of transportation back and forth. Point being this, where will our kids go? You have to have a 10-year contract with the school. Which school is going to be any nearer than Wyndham for our kids? Which school is going to offer the types of facilities that they have in that wonderful building that, yes, we help pay for it, but our kids are taking advantage of that. We're benefiting from that. So I hope that the community, if they are going forward with this at this time, and I would agree with the school board member, it's premature to do this until you have some more information, until the school board, the RSU board has a chance to look at some more things. I don't think we're thinking about the students. And as a teacher, that's my first thought, and as a parent, that's my first thought as well. I don't want anybody else to sit in some cafeteria somewhere thinking, where are my kids going to go to school? And that's what likely will happen. You say that we wouldn't have anything but a primary school? Well, that's what we had then. We would have something more than a primary school if we stay with the RSU. We'd have middle school, we'd have a high school, we'd have great facilities. Our kids have really availed themselves well of a lot of programs that we could not possibly offer if we tried to have our own high school. Is that what some people seem to be suggesting? Way too small a community for that, to offer a variety of programs. Well, that's what it sounded like a previous speaker was intimating at. And if not, then where do they go? The biggest loss was the loss of a sense of community. My two daughters had young friends growing up when they attended Jordan Small. They could not maintain those friendships because they scattered to the four winds. They went all over the place. Also an issue with school choice, but that's a whole nother topic I'll save for another time. The reason some people said at town meeting that they moved to Raymond was because we had school choice and they could send their students to private school on public tax dollars. I remember people saying that at the microphone. So to say that they moved here because of the quality schools, I'm sure many did. I'm sure some also moved here for school choice. I remember that quote, absolutely. And they still do move here for that reason, perhaps. A couple of other issues. Long ride on the bus, that would not be alleviated by withdrawing from the RSU. Kids would still have a long ride on a bus if there even were a bus to wherever they end up going. Parents might have to provide that transportation, or I don't know how that would work. It was a problem before, it would probably be a problem again. To say that there is no say now, well, there is. There's 3 votes out of the 9. Is it a minority? Yeah. Well, as Mr. Bruner just pointed out, there's a reason for that. So be active, talk to the Wyndham folks. Yeah, it's not that there's no say, it's just that it's representative. That's the form of government that we tend to have in this country. To have it be a given that Wyndham taxpayers would vote in that tax burden on themselves, even if all of the Raymond residents said no, to assume that Wyndham would go for it in these times? I don't know. There's a lot of speculation in the room tonight, not a lot of real information, not a lot of real hard facts. A lot of people's opinions. I can understand their concerns about the budgetary impact of that. I pay taxes too, and as far as the diminishing quality of the education, well, I think I think we've had a problem in the state for the last few years because of diminishing budgets throughout the state and all districts. So I certainly take issue with that, and I imagine that the teachers in the RSU would take issue with that as well. But again, I think that that more goes to budgetary restraints than it does to anything else. Costs that are not being talked about, there are a lot of costs after the divorces that people are not even looking at. There'll be an ongoing cost. There was a lot of energy, time, cost, a lot of lawyers being paid a lot of money to not just do the consolidation agreements, but also then all of the contracts. And you have to undo all of that. You're talking about major turmoil, and you're talking about it very, very prematurely. Again, I want to repeat that point if I can. Let's see. If you can give me just a second to be sure. To say that we would not have schools, again, that's not true. It's an RSU. Those are our schools too. Just because they happen to be located across the town line, I don't know why we couldn't ever start thinking of ourselves as an RSU. I teach in RSU 51, SAD 51. It's North Yarmouth, Cumberland. And yes, some people in those two communities consider themselves part of one town, not part of the RSU, but as a district, we look at the needs of our students as our students in both towns. And we've moved the schools and the students back and forth a number of different ways, a number of different times to meet the needs of the changing population. So again, it's too bad we couldn't have developed that mentality. I guess I'm really quite surprised at remarks of a previous speaker who actually was in favor of consolidating before that was even mentioned up in Augusta. So to have been in favor of Raymond joining in with Wyndham because it made the most sense, because we do share a lot, and now saying that that hasn't worked, I just am really quite surprised by that remark. Let's see. Well, I don't want to take too much more of your time. You're probably going to cut me off if anyone's counting the 3 minutes anyway. But again, I think that it would be great to, and unfortunately I can't be at the meeting tomorrow night, but it would be good to hear some more from the RSU and ask for them to really consider seriously that they should have revisited that cost share, obviously, if it's supposed to have been done after 3 years, and look at that, and hopefully that can change and be more reasonable in terms of the number of students that we now have, and a lot of other options that are out there. But again, be thinking of the students and be thinking well into the future, because I remember, even though it was 20-something years ago, whenever that was, I remember that fear. Where are they going to go to school? And once the school did take them, are they going to continue to take them for the rest of their education? Or is that going to be more disruptive? And again, the transportation that I had to provide for that. So, thank you.
Grace, were you able to access the PDF?
Oh,
High school.
thank you for mentioning that. I meant to thank you for attempting to send it to me, despite the bouncing back. After trying on 3 different computers, I did. But again, I thank you for taking the time to send that. I did finally open it.
Okay, it's possible that your first computer didn't have the latest reader.
Didn't have the latest reader. The next one didn't have whatever I needed. I finally finagled something. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Marshall and then Frank.
Marshall Bullock, Stonewall Crossing in Raymond, also a member of the Budget Finance Committee. When I read the e-packet, which I usually do, and I've been following other school withdrawal processes in the newspaper, I looked at this as a sleeping giant. And I have offered Teresa my assistance in gathering numbers and putting together information. I think I might agree that we might be a little premature, but I don't think it's us. I don't think it would be a good idea for us to go to sleep here. I think it would be very wise of us to, at minimum, start an ad hoc committee to gather information. What happens now, what happens after. Budgets need to be processed and so forth and so on. The result of that would be twofold. 1, information, and 2, it'll cut down a little bit on the legal fees. The other thing that I looked at was what I call unintended consequences. And the first one that stuck out to me is, if Wyndham will not give us a 10-year contract, who will? What do we need to address issues like that. How many students do we have going to Wyndham high school at this point in time? Does anybody have any, I should have asked that question earlier, but anybody have any idea what that would be? It's a pretty small number. It's not 45% of the school, I'm
No,
sure,
it's probably about 350 that go to the high school.
in the 4 grades. Okay, so that's what we're paying this for. And my last comment would be, I think the Budget Finance Committee, speaking for myself as a member and not for the committee, would have a very hard time chewing off a big bond payment, especially for 30 years. So we've made some commitments to the public in our last budget meeting about reducing expenses. I think that would be a tough pill to swallow. Thanks.
Frank?
Being involved with high school, sending students to high school for 20 years, I would be willing to bet you a large sum of money that Wyndham will in fact give you a 10-year contract. It's free money. I can remember when Westbrook got involved, and the reason Westbrook got involved is because the superintendent in Wyndham was trying to hold us up. And I went down and sat with Ed and said to Ed Conley and Westbrook, Ed, here's your chance. And Ed made an offer to take any Raymond students that wanted to come, but Ed was smart, because what Ed did is he took all the money that he got from the town of Raymond and put it in a special fund. And that special fund built their computer labs, built special programs within the high school, and he could say to people who would complain that Raymond kids were going to Westbrook and it was costing them money, it would point to the lab and say, Raymond bought that lab for you. We would not have had that if it wasn't from Raymond. And the Raymond kids didn't cost you a sou in this high school. And the same thing is true of Wyndham. They're going to need that money. They're going to desperately need that money. There may be some blustering, but in the end, they will in fact give you a 10-year contract.
Anybody else from the public? I'm going to try to wrap this up for this evening and come back to it. Teresa?
I guess just some clarifications. I think when the Wyndham High School, correct me if I'm wrong, Frank, you should know, when they built that high school, they needed guaranteed from us to get state funding at least 50% of our kids.
Right.
Is what, okay. So, I mean, we have, I think probably right now, I think there's like 90% that goes there now. So it would be, it'd be a loss of money. But one of the things we would need is a 10-year contract. But the options that we have, and one of the reasons why we didn't go with Poland was because when we were being forced to consolidate, they didn't have enough in their numbers to be able to consolidate. We'd have to do a couple schools. But we have different schools. We've got Westbrook, we've got Gray, we've got, you know, if these guys, Wyndham doesn't do it. Maybe I missed somebody's comment earlier. I don't remember anything mentioned about a new high school. That's definitely not on the agenda or anything like that. And as far as the kids go, I think this building a new school is going to hurt the kids more. They're cutting teachers, they're cutting ed techs. Right now, for kids to come in with supplies, they come in with bulk supplies. You know, before you'd send your kid in with their notebooks or pencils and crayons. Now they're sending bulk for the whole classroom because kids that don't have the money are doing it. They can't. The budgets, the way that they're set up now, can't afford the support for the teachers and stuff like that. You turn around and you put a you put a $32 million budget, you know, new school in there, and it raises people's taxes. That's going to cause more people to lose more things because they can't afford them. So it hurts. I think it hurts the kids more.
Go.
I was on the school committee with that Poland consolidation. The reason we didn't go, because it was Poland, Minot, Mechanic Falls. Raymond's valuation was equal to all three of those towns' valuation. We would have paid 50% of the cost and had like 25% of the students. That's why we didn't do it back.
But they had to go with higher numbers because they didn't have. You had to have a certain
Right.
amount of
With
kids.
them, when they built their high school, we had to have a guarantee from Raymond that 50% of the kids would go.
Yes. In
And
order
so,
to get it.
and I think it's around $11,000 to $12,000 a pop now per kid in state subsidy. So if you pull out, let's say, 300 or 400 kids, that's you're talking $4 or $5 million.
Well, let's say 5 years ago it was $8,900
Which would
per
all
kid,
be
so.
pushed on the Wyndham taxpayer. So I agree with Frank that Wyndham would sign a 10-year contract in a hurry if we go through with this. But I still think we need to discuss it with the school committee and find out what's really going on.
I agree.
There's nothing that stops you from having an advisory vote in November, just advisory, and say, you know, what do you think about pursuing this? And see what people in Raymond say. But it's only advisory at that time.
So you sent out an email today with timing for the November ballot. That's the date of our next meeting. So we've got until the next meeting to make a decision. So I'm going to suggest at this point that we put this back on the agenda for next month. I don't know what form that agenda item will take at this point, Teresa. I think you've got some homework to do. I think we have, the board has to do some investigation, gather some information. I think the idea of trying to get together with the school board is smart. But I would anticipate too that we're going to do something in November. I think the momentum over the next month will lead us to something. So if we get you that information by the end of that meeting on the 9th, hopefully that'll give us enough time to get the ballots printed for whatever we might be looking at for November. Does that work okay for you, Teresa? We bring this back as an item to be determined in September to figure out what we're doing at the ballot?
Yep, I mean, Norma is putting together, working on the budget thing. I mean, what in particular do you guys want more of? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I don't think we know yet. I think.
See, and that's this whole process.
Correct.
Is literally trying to find my way to the next step, going, okay, all right, I got there. You know what I mean? Because it's educating the public as much as possible, and and I know the
Maybe you could get a trend of what has the school budget been for the last 5 years.
Oh, and you can get that right online, but
Right.
the last since 2008.
Right.
Because
You
no matter what happens, I mean, based on information I've seen, the middle school needs work. So whether it's with the RSU or with us, it needs work. So that's got to be paid for somehow.
But you're in small also needs work. Don't forget that. That is,
Correct.
there are estimates of $2 million worth of work, right?
Correct. That's what I mean. Work needs to be done. So that
Right.
so there's a lot more information to come. I think I understand from talking to you about the agenda item as it started and then reading the information you provided that we have steps to do. They're very specific for that. And I think we will know better in 5 weeks, 4 weeks for our next meeting what that should take shape as. If you go to the meeting tomorrow night, maybe we can schedule a workshop with I don't know what it would be called, where it's a select board and a school board, but
Right.
An informational meeting of some sort before our next one, which would give us, and then I think it will also give us an opportunity to get publicity out to the general public for even more input from them for the next meeting as well. I would encourage that. So that's the way I'd like to proceed at this point. I know you didn't have anything specific for this evening for a vote. Potentially you had the outline of what it has to say, so that would have been easy, but I think more time, more information will make an easier decision for September.
I know we can't get from the state. Once we do the petition, once the petition is voted, then we can request from the state a 279, which shows what the town would get for subsidy and stuff like that, but they cannot give it to us before we do the petition. So.
But there's plenty of other things to do as an ad hoc committee. You've got to figure out what would our governing body look like if we go separate again. Do we have to have a full-time superintendent? Can it be a principal? Can it be, that all cost has to be put back into our side of it, which is, part of figuring out what are the requirements going forward. So, and I understand that would be part of the process you would do even after you authorized a vote to spend some money. So, there's time. That's a lot of steps, and the first vote is only step 2. Is that correct?
And you're not locked in step 2.
Correct.
It's just saying that you're moving forward to get more information is what it is.
It's to officially start an investigation.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else have any last words for the board? Okay, I'd like to move on. Item F tonight is consideration of abatements as submitted by Assessor's Agent Kurt LaBelle. We have 2 abatements. Both of them involve camper trailers, one that was assessed twice, and one that has, that left the campground in 2012.
I'll make a motion to accept the recommendations of the town assessor and the vape properties for the total amount of $213.76.
Any further questions, suggestions, comments? Anybody from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor? 5-0, thank you. As I mentioned at the last meeting, I've moved public comment in front of executive session because we do need to use this room for executive sessions now. So I would like to invite anybody from the public who would like to speak to us this evening to step on up.
Frank McDermott, McDermott Road. As chairman, opened the meeting by plugging the library. I would like to have a couple of minutes to talk about the Raymond Casco Historical Society. Most of the societies and most of the museums in the area in the month of August are going to have joint fundraising efforts. All of the museums are going to try to raise some funds. And because we are small and we think small, we're looking for pennies. What we'd like the people in Raymond and Casco to do is to empty their pocket every evening and take their pennies and put them in a jar. And when they come up with $2 or $3 in the jar, bring them up to the museum, donate them to the museum, take a tour, see what we do, and help us raise some money to make sure we're able to keep our museum open for free. If you haven't been there, it's an interesting place. We have the main museum. We have a barn in which we're setting up agricultural displays. We also have a car barn with 27 antique automobiles. And all three of them are open Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays from 1 to 3. It would be worth the trip. But remember, we're asking everybody in town and everybody in Casco to just take their pennies. Every night, put them in a jar, bring them to the society and see if it can help us raise some money for our funds. Not asking for a lot.
Please roll them.
Yeah, please roll them. Roll them if you would, because I don't want to have to take them to the bank and pay to have them rolled. But that would really help us, because over the course of a year, we should be able to raise $1,000 or more as a society. So we would be very thankful if people would do that. We're going to try to get this in all the newspapers so people will know what we're doing, but save those pennies for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Frank, would you go back up to the mic for a minute?
302.
302, just into Casco.
We have a request where it's located.
It is located on Route 302 at the Watkins Farm. As you go up 302, there used to be a big farm where you have huge cornfields and stand. It's
Before the custard place.
yeah,
right-hand
right.
side.
Raymond's Ice Cream is going to be on the right-hand side, just beyond us.
And that's in Casco.
You can't miss it. It's a red metal building, and on the side of the building facing 302 is a mural, with Ernie Knight being the center of the mural. You really can't miss it. It's worth the trip just to see the automobiles. There's Skip's automobiles, Skip Watkins automobiles, and they're unbelievable creations. They really are. The man has a huge imagination. He took me to his shop a couple of weeks ago to show me one he's working on. There's about 5 going. And his pet is Oldsmobiles. Up there he has an Oldsmobile that is going to have an engine in the front, an engine in the rear. Together they'll be 997 horsepower, and he'll be able to drive it for either the front engine, the rear engine, or both engines. Some of the stuff he is just absolutely amazing. If you're not feeling too well, he has a wonderful hearse that he probably will run out to. It's absolutely spectacular. It really is. And it will get you there fast because it does have a Corvette engine in it.
Thank you, Frank. Anybody else have comments this evening from the public?
I just had a question.
You have to go with the mic, please. Certainly.
Bill Blood, 7 Mill Street. The meeting tomorrow night, is this going to be filmed at all? It is? Okay, great, thanks.
The one in Wyndham?
Oh, yeah, the one in Wyndham, yes.
Correct.
And it will be broadcast?
Oh, good, okay.
Okay,
I
great,
didn't
thank
realize
you.
that. Good.
So that brings us to the end of the public comment. At this point in time, we do have 2 executive sessions scheduled. I would ask people here, unfortunately, you're gonna have to leave the room, except for the folks who will be involved with the first executive session. You're welcome to hang out in the parking lot. I'll stick my head out at the end of the executive session, invite you back in. Don, you had a question,
My
comment?
question was, would it be possible to do the executive session absolutely last and do selectmen comments, town manager?
I'm nervous.
No.
Right, oh my God, there's a lot of information.
We'll rearrange it next time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can do that next time.
Thanks, Marshall.
We can put it away.
And I'm gonna call you
Right.
for that ad hoc thing too.
Makes sense, but I don't wanna.
I'm,
I read my own phone yesterday because I can't take the telemarketing.
I know where you live, and I'll give you the national 800 number to call for an appointment. Okay, cool,
Got a lot
thanks.
of, just got a lot of stuff. that-
Bye, Benny.
Yeah, no, it's a good point.
Bye, have a good night.
Bye. Good night.
Oh my God, I
Need a
can fall
motion to
asleep.
go into executive?
Just a minute, yeah. Sue, you have to stay, you're not done yet.
At the end of
Okay, I never
just like I thought.
You have to wait for the official motion, when we get off TV and all that, and
Well,
that's okay.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
my biggest issue is I'm here to present it.
We'll help you, Sue. We're not above.
Yeah, I think it's everybody has their opinion, yeah.
Can I have a motion to go into our first executive session,
So
please?
moved. No, you can't. You
I'd like
actually
to make
have
a,
stay.
I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session pursuant to MRSA subsection 4056H with code enforcement officer.
Second.
All those in favor?
Make a motion to come out of executive session.
Second.
All those in favor?
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Do we want
There's
to
nothing
reauthorize?
we need to do.
For the, okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session pursuant to Title I, subsection 4056A.
Second.
All those in favor? Can I have a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is selectmen comment. Folks have comments this evening? Really? Teresa?
Just a couple things. One is prayers to Toby Pennell's family and to him for hopefully getting a speedy recovery here. The second one is, thank God there's a Ready Care down at the bottom of 85, and I would love to have those guys come talk to people so they know what's going on in town, maybe come to maybe a meeting.
Where is this Ready Care?
Right down at the bank, Key Bank.
Oh.
Yeah, and they had a
great.
nice article in the Wyndham Eagle. They do labs, they do x-rays, they do...
Are they officially open?
Excellent.
Not yet, but soon.
What they need is he's a Raymond resident, by the way.
Yes, he's a doctor that's done all kinds of stuff, and he did something in Angola regarding some kind of serum or something. He's just really good. He came out of retirement. And the third thing is, a friend of mine, I didn't know this.
He's involved with Little League also.
The Raymond page. How cool would it be for, like, say, a mom in this town to put things on there for other kids to do? I have a friend that took her kids to Morgan Meadow and did the geocache and put it on there, and then she also did the frog pond and took pictures. I think it's something that we could advertise. I don't know if it's on there now. It might be. It's like one family showing what other families can do in Raymond, and I'm thinking more ways to put out there as to.
It's neat.
And it's really cute because these little kids found this thing with little prizes in it, so they each got a prize, and they took their own. Morgan Meadow, I thought, was just all walking, but no, there's all kinds of things, and it's really pretty out there. You know, they say too. So I didn't know if you guys were interested in maybe having her do it or somebody else. She has a a 4 and a 2-year-old that goes out and does these things. They did the frog pond and things to do down at the frog pond at the school with the pass and stuff like that. Just adding more for stuff to do in Raymond for families. So.
We'll do it.
Can we?
Yeah.
Good. I'll tell her. It's really cute.
Just like that.
Good. That's easy. She'll love that I volunteered or I told her I was going to. Amy Sawyer.
Anybody else? I have a library update. So part 2 of our program today is brought to you by Raymond, Maine t-shirts. You can get them at the library, if I didn't mention that earlier. Available in all sizes, different colors, right down to onesies.
I wonder if you could sell them to like anywhere at the Wyndham Mall, or sell them to the dollar store.
Walmart.
I don't know, but Walmart would be a hard one to capture. You'd have to corporate wise, but if you could go to like the dollar store and they would have them on display, and you could buy them there.
For the benefit of the
Buy
library.
them
Right.
at a handful of different businesses throughout that a lot of people go through. Like Raymond Service Center, if a lot of people go there, or just to be able to promote them, because I want
Well,
one.
what about that little store in front of the Mosquito that they're going to be putting in there with all kinds of Raymond souvenirs
sure.
and stuff like that?
Even the Mosquito. It's a
I
great
bet there
place
would be
to hang a
plenty
few
of places the
Mosquito.
library could get for
Sunset.
so folks
Any
to
of
sell
those.
them.
To go around and ask.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I will pass that on. The fundraisers this summer currently going on are, the annual book sale is on right now. And I was actually getting my tires worked on today. And a gentleman in South Portland asked me for directions, because he saw my Raymond, Maine t-shirt, to the Raymond Library because he heard about our book sale and he's looking for old books. And he had heard about it, so he was coming up here actually from the tire store. So that was quite something. My Raymond t-shirt paid off today. The book sale goes on all summer. And then a couple of highlights that they've received this summer, just for grants. They got a $500 grant from Gorham Savings, which I mentioned at the last meeting. They did get a $175 grant from Loon Echo to do a couple of stargazing programs. One was held on July 29th, and I think if you go there right now tonight, they're doing the second one. At the July 29th program, they had 70 people attend for the stargazing, so that's quite a nice program. And a couple of statistics from June and July: 100 children, teens signed up for summer reading. They had 464 children attend the summer reading programs over those 2 months. 5,300 materials were checked out during those 2 months, and they had about 3,500 patron visits. So things are happening at the library for those of you who didn't know it. So anyway, that's my update on the library. Thank you, Sally, for forwarding that to me. Anybody got anything else? Don?
Okay, I've got quite a lot. I'll try to go through this as quickly as I can, rapid fire round. I've got, at Mike's request, a review of the FY 13-14 budget. The FY 13-14 gross municipal budget passed at town meeting was $4,325,612. There were some departments that exceeded budget, but there are others that came in under budget, with the resulting expenditure from appropriations totaling $4,293,510.87.
You have another copy?
Or $32,401.13 under budget. The projected FY 13-14 revenues amounted to $2,150,800, which included an estimated $195,000 for municipal revenue sharing. The state projection as of June 27, 2013 estimated that Raymond would receive $117,530.76 in revenue sharing. The amount actually received was $120,880.52, or $74,119.48 under the budgeted amount, which was our concern, of course. Excise tax were estimated at $740,000. The amount actually received was $809,762.31, or $69,762.31 over budget. Good news. There were several other areas that came in at less than the amount budgeted, but there were other revenue accounts that came in at totals greater than the budget amount, with the results that the town reached 100.46% of the budgeted total, or $9,901.25 more than the total revenues budgeted. And here's the punchline. Overall, the town's net budget was met with $42,302.38 to spare and came in under the LD1 spending limit as calculated by Assessor Kurt LaBelle.
So that is something I asked John to do. We talked about that at our June meeting, and we didn't know whether or not we were going to need to take money out of, you know, contingency, and fortunately we did not. And I do want to personally thank Joe for making the prediction on the excise tax number going up and giving us that option during a tough budget time, you know, a year and a half ago when we were trying to figure out what to do with that news from the state, and it proved well, and then the departments also did their work to make sure that it came in as well. So I'm very happy to have this memo today.
I guess we probably should confirm the date for the next meeting. I see you're looking at your calendar.
We should.
So that's September 9th, if that works for everyone.
Any chance we could do it on the 2nd?
That's fine by me.
Yeah,
Doesn't make a difference to me.
it actually works better for me.
Second? Okay, it works better for me too. One of my announcements is I'm headed to the ICMA conference the end of that week, so that would be better.
So the 2nd work for everybody?
I think so.
The only thing that does to you, Teresa, is shrinks your timeline,
Oh,
but that's fine.
that's fine. Yeah, I mean,
And I think,
no matter what, there's always going to be questions. There's always going to be,
mhm.
you know, so.
But I mean, it sounds like you're on a roll right now, so you'll have more information. All right, so we're gonna do it on the 2nd. Everybody?
Yep.
Everybody's shaking their head. Okay, Don, go.
Yes.
Okay, back to the rapid fire round. I want to thank Raymond resident Bob Murray, who recently donated all the Cat 6 cable that the town needed to re-cable the entire town office. And so that's a project that was undertaken by Woodbury Consulting, Kevin and Eric Woodbury, and so it is now nearing completion. It's going to increase the functionality of our system, the speed, naturally, the reliability, and probably most importantly, it can be manipulated by Kevin or our future network administrator remotely. So all good stuff. Thank you, Bob Murray. Bob, in the past, by the way, has given other donations to the town and or assist the town in acquiring assets at a very low cost. So he continues to help us in many ways, for which we're thankful. As I mentioned, I'm going to the ICMA conference leaving Saturday the 13th of September. Be gone about a week. Danielle will be in charge. Let's see. The National Guard has left the stage for the season. The Army National Guard, Air Force, Marines, so forth. I worked to get them a good story in the paper, and we're going to send a copy of that off to the commander. But so if you missed that story in the Lake Region Weekly, that tells what they accomplished, and I thought it was a pretty good story. The town report is under development right now and will be available this fall. August 29th is the deadline for submissions, so I'm not sure how you want to handle the Selectmen report. We always have a debate whether it's the former chair, new chair.
I think it's the former chair.
Yeah, I'm working on Sam's.
All right, so okay, so that's underway. On August 14th, the RFQ, request for qualifications, for our planning grant, CDBG planning grant for the manufacturing incubator will be released. This is to study the possible utilization of the former Embed Tech Chipco building, now in private ownership, as a boat storage facility. So to see if that would be possible to be used as a startup incubator for small businesses. The community survey design is underway. Design committee is made up of Lori Forbes, Sharon Dodson, Danielle Loring, Sue Look, and Teresa Sadak. Survey will be completed by Patrick Murphy and Marissa Dolland of Pan Atlantic. The committee really felt that they were well suited, loved the design of the survey, or the way that they perceived the survey should be undertaken. Very qualified firms. We were very impressed with all the firms we talked to, but we just liked the way that they decided to construct the survey. So there'll be, with Mike's consent, an agenda item for September for you to approve, hiring Pan Atlantic. The other good news were they were the lowest bidder, also at $12,300. There may be some small amendment to that by this committee because they want to add a couple of extras. but I think it's gonna be in the mid-13s roughly, so significantly below the next bidder, significantly below the anticipated budget, and for a company we think will do a great job for us. That's it.
Have we done anything with the timber sale up on, has that started?
We're about 50% done. They moved over to the Burnham property, but they'll head back over, but yes.
And where are we as far as getting revenue in on
We've
that?
been receiving checks since, I think, late May, but I don't know what the numbers are. I have to check with Nancy. I can give an update.
Just curious as to whether we're gonna meet the 55,000.
Oh, I think we're gonna meet that all right. Greg said that number was a conservative number, yeah.
Just like Greg.
Any questions for Don while we've got him? Lonnie, you're up.
I'd like to make a motion to accept payroll expense summary dated 8/12/2014 for the amount of $76,636.19.
Second.
All those in favor?
I'd like to make a motion to accept a treasurer's warrant dated 8/12/2014 for the amount of $159,312.83.
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous. Anything else, Lonnie?
Yes, sir. Make a motion to accept treasurer's warrant dated 8/8/2014 for the amount of $6,379.41. This is for fiscal year 6/30/2014. It's the final from an old number.
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you, unanimous.
Somebody told me all I do is second. So that was for you, Doug. I seconded it.
I believe you started the first today. Anybody got anything else?
No, sir.
Motion?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you very much, all.